Alrighty, black review for standard. Let's get into it. Ambulatory Edifice. 3 mana 3/2 artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. When you do, target creature gets -1 and -1 until end of turn. Pretty bad. In standard, it's really unplayable. Annihilating Glare. It's a black sorcery, so 1 black, 1 mana sorcery. As an additional cost to this spell, pay for or sacrifice an artifact or creature, destroy target creature planeswalker. Wow. The flexibility that you can pay for without sacrificing is nice, and sacrificing an artifact is way more appealing than sacrificing a creature, so this could see play. This could see play. We've had spells like this in the past, although I think I remember them exiling potentially. There was like soul something, but you had to sacrifice a creature, so you're losing some power to gain flexibility, and that's pretty good. But yeah, Anvil decks are not coming back. I'm saying like you don't have to play Anvil to play artifacts. And yeah, Brotherhood Sun just completely. Isn't this bad Eaten Alive? Well, you can sacrifice an artifact. But I agree, Eaten Alive is better if you're sacrificing a creature. But again, you have to keep in mind that this is sacrificing an artifact, so it's supposed to be weaker, but more easier to actually accomplish because you're not sacrificing something that can easily get destroyed, theoretically. But yeah, again, I said it could see play. It's not great, but Anoint with Affliction, 2 mana, instant, exile target creature if it has mana value 3 or less, and exile that creature instead if its controller has 3 or more points. Okay, so this is really weird, but it's really good. Exile 3 or less, unless they're corrupted, and in that case, it's just straight up exile, which is insane in black for 2 mana. No prerequisite, just exile anything, any creature. But they have to have poison counters. So it's really well designed. Early game, you're going to be destroying early game creatures. So you probably don't care about the 4 mana above. And hopefully by that time, you proliferated enough and put poison counters on your opponent to just exile anything. But that seems a little bit Disneyland if your opponent's curving out. I think the problem is there's no way they have 3 or more poison counters if they're curving out and you have to kill their things every turn. And in that case, they're going to play a 4-drop and you're not going to be able to deal with it. So potentially if they curve out a shield red, you're going to need another answer to that before you can actually use this. So a little bit of awkwardness, but the flexibility and the power is there. So it's definitely a good card. Archfiend of the Dross. Yeah, that might be a sideboard card for sure. Yeah. The 2 mana exile thing. But exile is really nice. In black, that's very uncommon. So that kind of effect is very valuable, I think. Especially in standard currently. Exiling is huge upside. Archfiend of the Dross. 4 mana, 6/6 flyer. Jesus. Enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove an oil counter from the Archfiend of the Dross, and then if it has no oil counters, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. This is like really good, really good. Can't wait to lose to an opponent giving me Archfiend. That's probably not happening. But yeah. This card is insane. If you're proliferating, this will never, like, you will 100% just kill your opponent before this actually, like, theoretically, even if you never proliferate this will kill your opponent. Well, almost. It will put them at 2 after attacking 3 times, and then you just have to kill something and then they die. So essentially, even on base level, it should end your opponent's it should be able to kill your opponent, especially if you're running a bunch of removal spells to accelerate the life loss. So this has a lot of potential to see play just because it's overstated as hell and doesn't lose you the game quickly at all. If you proliferate once, you're just almost always safe. Yeah, this is basically no downside in my opinion. This is 4 mana, 6/6 flyer, no downside, and you can and upside with the lose this 2 life. So this is like, if there's a black aggro deck, this will see play in it. Combined with Shield Red for the 4-drop slot, you're probably pretty stacked. So I like it. It's good. Bilious Skull Dweller, 1 mana, 1/1 Death Touch Toxic 1. That's, I mean, really good limited creature, but probably not another good black card. But it's not Shield Red level, but you know, it's pretty good. It's also the fact that it's not legendary is pretty insane. So Black Sun's Twilight, 1 black and X for an instant, and up to 1 target creature gets -X/-X. If X was 5 or more, return a creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Yeah, the Miragen cards, the artifact things, yeah, they're pretty good. Okay, Black Sun's Twilight is good, but again, this is very weird because first of all, you need a creature. You need to be playing a creature deck, kind of, or at least some creatures that are gonna be in your graveyard. Otherwise, it's kind of useless. And X is 5 or more means that you have to pay 6 mana for that effect, and that's a lot. That's a lot of mana. Again, maybe the Twilight seem to have like really good synergy with that oil blue card that reduces the cost of spells. So I don't know, maybe in that deck. Instant is huge. Yeah, but what creature are you playing in this? Because otherwise it's just an overcosted removal spell. I see this being played on turn 3 to kill a 2 toughness minion most of the time. But only on the play, otherwise you can't. Because otherwise you're always playing off curve because your opponent, if your opponent's on the play, they're casting a 3 mana spell, you're not going to be able to deal with it, so you want to destroy their 2-drop on your turn 3 when they're curving out their 4-drop. This is definitely like sideboard only, and when you're on the play, I think only. Because creatures in standard are not statted low enough where this is relevant for its cost, unless you're casting it for 6. Like, the value that this brings to the table is only good for 6, otherwise it's always going to be undercosted. Overpowered and limited, yeah. And standard, this is, yeah. I'm talking about standard, of course. I think it's good and limited. The flexibility is really nice, and usually this being an insane top deck in the mid to late game is really good. Is this a rare though? Oh, it's a rare. As a rare, I don't think it's. As a rare, it's kind of a little bit less interesting then, but yeah, it would be way too strong as a. Blightbelly Rat. I mean, it's obviously insane, still unlimited, but it's not like gonna break the game or whatever. Blightbelly Rat. 2 mana, 2/2 toxic. When it dies, proliferate. Scourge, flying 2/2 death touch lifelink. If they're corrupted, it's pretty good limited. Skitterling, 3 mana, 1/4 corrupted. Sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw a card. Activate only if an opponent has no. So only if they have 3 or more poisons, and only once each turn. Same thing. Kind of. Well, black is pretty good and limited. Holy shit. Wow. So many death touch creatures. Cruel Grimnarch. 6 mana, 5/5 death touch, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you gain 4 life. Sure, it's pretty good. Actually, it's really good. Because it has a condition for when that's not happening, and gaining 4 life is really good. So yeah, it's a good card. Limited, of course. 3 mana, 2/2 artifact creature. Sacrifice another artifact. Okay. Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. It's a 5 mana 8/3, which is kind of goofy stats. If a creature dying caused a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Don't really know where that would be relevant, but it's probably not relevant in standard. I can't think of a single death proc that's actually relevant. 2 Phyrexian black mana, activate ability. Exile 3 creatures from your graveyard, put an indestructible counter on Drivnod. This card is kind of goofy. Juicy ability. I mean, they all have this. All the Red Phyrexian horror legendary creatures, they all have the indestructible thing. This is one of the weaker ones because its condition is based on the graveyard, your graveyard, so pretty easy to counter in terms of what these usually entail. Doesn't cost mana though. That's true. You're right. It doesn't cost mana. That's a huge upside, but it's also 5 mana, so you're right. The fact that it doesn't cost a single mana theoretically is a huge upside, but the condition is also pretty and can be pretty bad, but I guess it depends on the matchup. But to be fair, an 8/3 indestructible is actually not that good. Anvil's a death rock? No, it's not. Oh wait. Maybe. No, I don't know. I think it's the act of sacrificing, which I don't think is a death proc. This is a weird card because an 8/3 indestructible is depending on the matchup, it's either insane or it's useless. Like if they have chump blockers, you're not really doing anything. So you can't like if you swing into a chump blocker, you won't have it on defense. So it's either permanently on defense or I mean it could just this is a sideboard card, right? Like it's maybe a one of main deck, but I don't even think it's good enough main deck. Like the condition is too for this to line up, you have to hit a good matchup anyways. It's missing trample, yeah, but it would be broken with trample. Of course it doesn't have trample. But yeah, it's a little bit too straightforward. Like it's just a big chonky indestructible creature, which is good in some matchups, but also the condition of having like it's weird because it's a card that's like good when your opponent doesn't have chump blockers, but usually those decks have either an exile or they'll be able to exile your graveyard, I think, because like against white decks, well, white decks have chump blockers. I don't know, it's so weird. I don't really know what matchup this would be relevant in, where you have time to use the indestructible, and they don't have chump blockers. So against Grixis, they'll just sack it. They can exile your graveyard. Like every deck seems to have some way to play around this, either by exiling your graveyard or by exiling this card itself or chumping it. Like there's too many different things that can happen that will just not. Yeah, I don't. This is probably one of the worst. This is the worst one so far. Yeah, by not even close. I think. I do think this is the worst one by far. Drown in Ichor. 2 mana, -4/-4. Ooh, a sorcery. No! No! Damn, I got excited. Target creature gets -4 proliferate. Wow. Damn it. Madge. I mean, at that point, you just make this cost 2 black and give it instant speed. Like, why even bother making a sorcery? Like, it's so bad. Might still see play, but if it was instant, I think that would guarantee that the proliferate deck would be a thing, because instant speed -4/-4 is really insane. With the proliferate attachment. But sorcery speed is yeah. It's probably still playable, but it's really unfortunate that they're still scared to push. Like this is Wizards putting their foot down and saying we don't want control to be strong. Like we want it to be like maybe barely playable, but not like they're too scared. They're too scared of control being good, and this is proof. Even though it wouldn't make control. It would not make control too good. But they have like some sort of trauma from I don't know. I don't know. They don't want that to be a thing. Doesn't even kill the new 4-mana devotion 5/5. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just like, yeah, unfortunate. Really unfortunate. I feel like there's no reason for that to be sorcerer speed. With the other stuff they printed. Duress is a card that I know of. Red also has a 3 damage for 2 mana instant. So 4 is pretty much always sorcery speed. No, we've had a 2 mana black -1 -4 at instant speed, but it costs 2 black, which is what I said. They should have made this 2 black and just give it instant speed. There's no reason for them to gatekeep it behind sorcery. Will control be strong if Fable is banned? Yes. Fleshless Gladiator. 2 mana, 2/2 corrupted. Return this creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. You lose 1 life. Limited, I guess. Geth. Thane of Contracts. 3 mana, 3/4 legendary creature. Other creatures you control get -1/-1. So your creatures get -1/-1. But it's a 3 mana, 3/4. And then for 1 and 2 black, and you tap this creature, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. And it gains if this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate only as sorcery. I mean, again, I've seen this card before. It's really good, but I have no idea how you're going to use this. But it's really good stats, insane ability. I wouldn't be surprised if I see it in standard. I just don't know where it's going. I don't know who's playing this, but yeah, bad Scarab God, but bad Scarab God is good, no? Bad Scarab God is good still. For 3 mana, especially. Seems kind of bad. I don't think it's bad if you build around it. I think it's only bad if you're thinking about it in a traditional deck. But this is obviously not something you just play in a traditional deck. It doesn't really make sense. Removes itself from the board when you tap it? Yeah, but the point is you're bringing back something that's relevant, right? You're building around it. You're not slapping this card into your random ass creature deck. You're playing a deck that either has insane things to bring back, or like, essentially you're playing like a pseudo control with Cruelty of Gix. You remove something on turn 2, you play this as your only creature on turn 3. Then maybe you have like some looting or some shit. Like maybe you're playing like maybe you're playing Fable, maybe you're playing stuff like that. And then you just bring back something that has ETB or whatever. I think Geth is a commander card. I don't know. I don't know. It seems good to me, but no, he's saying removes itself from the board. He's saying that it can't block. That's what Maxu means. He's saying it can't block, which is true. But if you're using it, you wouldn't use it. Like, essentially, it can't block, but your next creature can. The creature that's coming into the battlefield is blocking. The body's not relevant. Yeah, but a body is relevant on the turn you play it. That's the point, right? When you're activating the ability, it means you have something powerful coming in, and if you have something powerful coming in, that body will be able to block. So it's only for the first turn, which is where the body matters most, is when you cast it, what happens immediately? Like, can they attack into it? Like, that's the question, right? I'm crazy. Thank you for the prime. I have alerts off, but appreciate it. I do think this card has a lot of power attached to it, and I think it's powerful enough for standard, but the metagame is really probably not aligned with it at all. Like, it's probably not going to see play. But I'm saying, like, the power is there. Like, it's extremely accessible in terms of reanimation. So, but I think it is a little bit too clunky for standard as it stands. Like, things are a little bit too straightforward. But I like the card. I think it's cool. Do I have new brews? No, I didn't even finish reviewing the set. Why would you even ask me? Most importantly, blocks trespasser. I think the stat line is what's appealing. The stat line is the most appealing thing about it. Like 3/4 is pretty beefy for 3-drop. Blocks Fable equals good. True. Yeah, true. But there are other things that block Fable. So yeah, it's not really an argument for it, but it's nice, I guess. Okay, Gulping Scrap Top. 5 mana, 4/4. When it enters the battlefield or dies, proliferate. And whenever. Draw 2, lose 2. Each opponent gets a poison counter. Ooh! Why are these so bad? But like, like they're just straight. Wait, I mean, this. Okay. Draw 2, lose 2 is priced at about 2.5 mana, right? And we saw from the previous draw spell, the blue one, the draw card, 2 mana, instant draw card, put a poison counter. They value poison counters at about like 1.25 mana. So this is essentially a cheaper poison counter than for value than the 2 mana instant. Which is interesting. But also it's just way too slow for standard, but I don't know, weirdly priced. I mean, it's just like, yeah. It's like too late. Poison counters, I guess the poison counter value loses. Yeah, this loses value the more expensive it is either way. Poison counters, the earlier the better. So I guess that's why they costed it a little cheaper on this card. But whatever. Yeah, almost any 3-drop blocks the 2/2. That is 100% true. But whatever, it's still relevant because Fable's so broken that we might as well just mention it every time. Whatever. Karumonyx, the Rat King. 3 mana, toxic, 3/3 other rats you control have toxic 1. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library and reveal any number of red cards from among them, put them in their hand, and put the rest at the bottom of your library. Get a random order. So if this was just ETB, draw a rat, that's not bad. The question is, what kind of rat is playable in standard that is somehow not seeing play right now? I don't know. It's probably unplayable. But if there was a good rat, or no, you would need multiple because it's top 5. You would need like 2 or 3 playable rats, and then this is actually an insane card, but just for the draw itself, that's probably not happening. Kinzu of Bleak Coven. 5 mana legendary. 5 mana, 5/4 flyer. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may pay 2 and exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and has toxic. That's just worse than Lisa, right? Kind of. But it's only in, I mean, it is just in black, so that's the upside. Not a huge fan of this. Also, you have to pay 2, so it's not a free effect. A little bit too many downsides to this, I feel like. As in, like, pay 2, stat line's kind of wacky. Like, a creature like this wants to be a 4/5, not a 5/4. I think. I don't know. Weird. It's whatever, yeah. Compared to Gix's Command or Invoke. Yeah, 5 mana slot for black is just way too contested. You have Gix's Command, Cruelty of Gix, Invoke. This shit is not competing with that. Let's just say that. Necrogen Communion is an aura. 2 mana enchant creature you control has toxic 2, and when it dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. So this is only good if you value toxic, which some decks might. I don't think I can evaluate this, but it's pretty powerful if you actually care about toxic. If you care about poison counters, this is an okay way to do it, I guess, but not for standard. This would be pretty insane limited, I think, on like a flyer. Necrosquito. 4 mana 0/0 enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters. It gets +1/+1 for each oil counter. And whenever a creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on Necrosquito. Eh. Necrosquito, best name in the set. It's good, kind of obvious, but it's cool. I like it. Nimraiser. Nimraiser Paladin. 5 mana 4/4 Toxic 2. I mean, Toxic 2 on a 5-drop is... enters the battlefield, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to your hand. Ew. Yeah. If that was to the battlefield, I was about to pop off. Like, that's just crazy as well. But nope. It's not great. Offer Immortality. Indestructible and Death Touch for 2 instant. Yeah. Creature gets returned. That is interesting with prototype creatures, though. Oh, yeah, true. But, I mean, it's kind of narrow. You have other ways of doing that are better, though. Like, if you don't care about Toxic, you'd just rather play Feign Death, right? Pestilent Siphoner. 2 mana 1/1 Toxic 1. Sure. Phyrexian Arena. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and lose a life. There's, like, no matchup where you would ever play this. It's sideboard card. Sideboard card against control decks in a situation where Bankbuster is actually not as... so it'd have to be against a red control deck that does not have access to white. Is that even possible? So against Dimir? Against Dimir, it's fine. So against Dimir control, this would be 3 mana, infinite card draw, but you're gonna die. So you need some life gain. It's pretty much the only matchup I can think of this being good, but yeah, Phyrexian Arena is just power creeped right now. The format is just too fast for this. The life gain is too relevant. Phyrexian Obliterator. I hate this card. As in, I hate playing against it. And 4 black for a 5/5 Trampler, and whenever a source deals damage to it, that source controller sacrifices that many permanents. Rest in peace, mono red. Yeah, but I mean, mono red's already rest in peace, so this is even... this essentially says... Actually, this doesn't do anything. Honestly, I think people are like, okay, mono black's gonna be good, but I mean, mono red is already unplayable, so so far we have 2. It's funny because the white 4 mana 5/5 flyer it still beats up on mono. Like, they're all beating up on mono red. Every one of these, or any red deck really that doesn't have black. I don't know. I don't even know if this will see play because it's not as good as Shield Red against control decks because you get the guaranteed damage. What cards from the new set are gonna make mono black good? I actually don't know if mono black's gonna be good. I just said that randomly because mono black's like almost playable right now. So I'm not even sure it's gonna make black good. There's just this, I think. So I don't even know if mono black's gonna be good realistically, because if control is good, mono black is not usually, unless they play 4 Lily main deck. In that case, well, white has some ways. I think control has some ways of dealing with planeswalkers now, so we'll see. Obliterator is the death of Shield Red. You can no longer not have good single target removal. You can no longer not have good single target removal in your deck with mono black having access to both cards. Yeah, but is mono black gonna be good? I don't think so, but I mean, it is good right now, kind of, a little bit. Is it going to be good in the next format? I don't know. We're getting a lot of good removal spells. And mono black, well, actually, they still have Invoke. Okay, never mind. They have Invoke, so for some reason I forgot that they would be playing Invoke anyways, so yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I think the big if is if mono black is good, then sure, you have to... If mono black is good, nobody's ever going to be playing, like, just... You would have to play black or white. You have to be either in black or in white, otherwise you can't play the game because these will just crush every single non-white or black decks. Like green, this is why green cannot be a thing, right? Like green and red are pretty much shut down immediately because of this and the white one. The cards are just too good. Like they should have never printed these spells in the format in a format that was looking to be pretty interesting in terms of deck building. But now we have like two creatures that straight up hard counter specific colors, which is not great in Magic where you want a deck build, but it is what it is. All right. Ravenous Necro Titan. 4 mana 6/6. What? Would it enter the battlefield, sacrifice a creature unless an opponent has three or more poison counters. So corrupted, sacrifice a creature. But 4 mana 6/6 is pretty good, but not in standard. But this might be good in limited, yeah. Green is gonna be good. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I don't think green's gonna be good. Green, red aren't allowed to play Magic apparently. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they will be. Well, not on their own, right? They'll have to splash one of those colors that I was talking about. Obliterator with fight. Yeah, of course. That's a classic. But I don't see mono green being good. But green itself might be good. But mono green will definitely not be a thing. That's I can guarantee. Scheming aspirant. I mean, I think I can guarantee that. We'll see when we get there. I guess I can't say much until we see the cards. 2 mana, 1/3. Whenever you proliferate, they lose 2, you gain 2. Edict. 2 mana instant. Choose one. To sacrifice a non-token creature. Sacrifice a creature token or sacrifice a planeswalker. This is really insane. Like this is just crazy. This will be in the sideboard. At least as a one of. Hey Jim Bub. Yeah, we'll see the VOD on YouTube anyways. 4 mana, 2/4 menace, toxic 2. Toxic 2 is a limited card. 3 mana, 3/2, toxic 1. When it dies, create a 1/1 might token. It's a common that is not playable in standard. Testament Bearer. 4 mana, 4/1. When it dies, look at top 3, put one in your hand, the rest in your graveyard. That is also a limited card. That Emergence. 5 mana, put a creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield and proliferate. Ooh. Cruelty of Kicks, but worse. But limited though. Vat of Rebirth. 1 mana artifact. Whenever another artifact or creature controls put into a graveyard from battlefield, put an oil counter on Vat of Rebirth. And you can pay 3 and tap it. Remove 4 oil counters. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only a sorcery. This is terrible. So you need, it doesn't even count itself for the oil counter. Like it doesn't count itself. So 4 artifacts or creatures need to be put into the graveyard. Wait, so does this count tokens or no? I don't understand this. Put into a graveyard needs to be non-token, right? I don't even does it, or is put into graveyard the act of it just leaving the battlefield, not in exile, not getting exiled? I don't remember how that works exactly. Tokens touch the graveyard. Gotcha. Okay, so 4 tokens, and then for 3 you get to return. I mean, it's still bad, right? Like, because if you're playing tokens, you're probably not playing creatures. Well, I guess you could build into that, but not necessarily. If you're playing a token deck, I don't think you're going to be playing many creatures where this would be worthwhile. So it's definitely. You would rather play Blood Fountain, right? Like, that's what I'm saying essentially. Vran, Executioner's Thane. Legendary creature, 2 mana, 2/2. Whenever one or more creatures you control dies, each opponent loses 2 life and gains 2 life. So basically a drain for like token decks, which is pretty good. 2 mana, 2/2, no other text though is kind of, and it says other creatures, so it doesn't even count itself. That's an anvil card. I don't think so. I don't think this is good at all. 2 mana, 2/2, no. I mean, yeah, 2 mana, 2/2 is just underwhelming as hell. It has nothing else going for it, and it only triggers once per turn. So even in Anvil, like you don't want to play this. You don't want to. You'd rather play Harvester. There's no room in it. There's no room. Like every other creature has upside and generates an artifact, so you have that synergy. This has no synergy. It's just pure damage, which is not what Anvil wants to do. Anvil's not trying to just straight up burn out the opponent. Anvil's trying to like outgrind the opponent and pinging them over time to like while they're gaining that card advantage, while they're developing the board. They're slowly chipping away. They're not bursting you down. This is not the right archetype for that. Vraska, Betrayal, Sting completed. So you can pay 5 and 2 life, and it comes in with 4 loyalty. You can pay 6 for 6 loyalty. 0, draw a card, you lose 1 life and proliferate. That's with context of poison counters, that's pretty relevant now. Target creature becomes a treasure artifact with a sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. It loses all other card types and abilities. Sure, that's basically hard removal essentially. Giving a treasure can be a big downside though, so some nuance there. -9, if they have fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So essentially, I mean, you're playing this in a proliferate deck, so it's kind of like winning the game because you just need to draw. But the problem is it doesn't win the game by itself, which is kind of weird. So the prerequisite is that you have, if you're -9ing, your odds are high to find just lethal from any proliferate card, but you can also just never find it and lose the game. So I don't know. Weird ult. I think most of the time you're not ulting this anyways. You're gonna mine it. You're gonna use it for pseudo removal and then drawing a card here and there, but you could get it to -9, but I think it's, I mean, it can happen with all the proliferate. I don't know. If -2 is non-line, it would be much better. If it was non-line permanent, it'd be absolutely broken. Like this would be one of the best planeswalkers in the game, I think. So I don't know. That it sounds, I think it's good that it's the only creature. You don't want this to be like too, you don't want a black planeswalker to be like too broken. Actually, non-land permanent, you can, that doesn't even exist in black. I don't think any black planeswalker is non-land permanent. That would be insane. Okay, anyways, good card, but you can ult that the turn after it comes out. Yeah, the next turn if you have a bunch of proliferate. But if you're using your proliferate spells on Vraska, and then you minus, then you need another proliferate spell on top of that. So it's doable. I'm not saying it's not relevant. It's really good. It's just I feel like most of the time you're gonna have to fight for board. Like if you're that far ahead, I just think the +1 draw card is like already pushing you farther ahead. So I don't think it's that relevant that you can ult it, but it will matter in some matches for sure. Yeah, it's good. It's a balanced planeswalker. It's very expensive in terms of planeswalkers, I would say, and it does what it needs to do in the archetype that it wants to be in, and that's good. Vraska's Fall, 3 mana. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, planeswalker, and gets a poison counter. Oh no! So this is, it's damn it. I mean, I feel like this card is bad. I mean, it's bad, but I'm trying to like think about why it's bad, and I know like a few things. Like first of all, this should have been choose one, sacrifice a creature, or sacrifice a planeswalker. And then I think this might even see play in the sideboard. But I mean, it might still see play in the sideboard. I just think it's bad that they have the option of not sacrificing planeswalker. I don't think it would be too strong at all. I don't think it makes this card much better. No, it does make it significantly better, but it doesn't make it like overpowered or really, really good. It just makes it like kind of nice that you can sacrifice planeswalker. But it's just, I don't know. It's good value for the poison, but it's also like very, very narrow in what matchups this is actually good in, and in those matchups it's pretty good though. So I don't know. Like against big creature, like against, I mean, I think you can maybe play this if you have a bunch of sweepers and they're playing like a beefy mid-range deck. I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? I almost like the card, but it's a common. Yeah, it's a common, but commons see play sometimes. I don't care if it's common or not. I just feel like this. I feel like we need more ways to put poison. So far, in black and in blue, I have not found a single way of putting poison on my opponent that's actually good. Which was a bad sign for control, right? We were talking about control, and people said there were a lot of ways or good ways to put poison on your opponent, but I've seen none of that so far. And we've gone through black and blue, which is usually what you want to be in control colors. Not great. 1 mana instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 and proliferates. I mean, -1/-1 is terrible, but yeah, proliferate for 1 is interesting though. But yeah, unplayable, I think. All right, black is better than blue, but still worse than white, I think. If I go through all the cards here real quick to get an idea. And we've got the Phyrexian Obliterator. We've got this is trash. This is kind of bad as well. It's okay. Drawn and Icarus, not great. This is not great. This is not great. This is not great. Actually, maybe this is worse than blue. I don't know. Black Sun Silence, okay. It's okay. This is good. Actually, the removal is good. Yeah, it's better than blue. Yeah. Okay, so right now white is way better than everything else, and then black, then blue. But black and blue are not that far apart. I think what sets them apart is mostly that Vraska is actually better than Teferi by far. So that's something. All right, I guess we'll find out with the other colors.